p.m. It is Thursday, April 29th, and I'm going to call this TIRZ meeting to order. Would the city secretary please call a roll?
Inglesby, Jones, Mitchell,
Travis, you're on mute.
Sorry.
Coach,
Here.
Ellison, Flores Kale, Rizzo,
Present.
Bradshaw,
Here.
Tobias.
Present.
Okay, we have a quorum. Next up, approval of the minutes.
Mayor, this is Councilman Tobias. I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve the minutes for TIRZ board, April 8th, 2021.
Second.
Okay, it's been motioned by Councilmember Tobias, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Coach, that we approve the TIRZ board meeting minutes. Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion passes. All right. Next up, citizen comments period. At this time, we ask anyone who's registered online and wishes to speak to please do so. Do we have anyone registered online to speak during citizen comments?
I didn't have any registrations.
All right, if no one is registered and there's no objection, I'm going to go ahead and close citizen comments. It is now closed. Next up, agenda item number 3, consider impossible action for consideration and approval contract amount for Heroes Memorial Park with Cadence McShane Construction Company.
I guess
Mayor,
you want hand that to me.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and hand that over to you, Bob. Thank you.
Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. I want to start with just a little bit of background, and I'm talking about both projects, but we do have 2 separate action items. So back on March the 30th, we received proposals for both parks projects. And during those proposals were reviewed by a team of reviewers and ranked. And on the April 8th TIRZ board meeting, we asked for and received approval to enter into negotiations with Cadence McShane, which was the highest ranked firm and the lowest price firm, by the way, for the Heroes Memorial Park for a proposed amount of $8,950,000. And Stoddard Construction, which was the highest ranked and lowest price firm for the Uptown Central Park project. The proposal amount was $4,991,210. So over the last few weeks, we were tasked with looking at both projects, working with both teams to develop ideas for lowering the cost. The directive we were given was to find a maximum amount of savings without affecting the integrity of these wonderful designs, without affecting the overall aesthetics, the durability of materials, or the maintainability for these parks. So each project team, which included the architects, their sub-consultants, contractors, the subcontractors, vendors and suppliers, and a number of AGCM personnel, there were really dozens of people, pored over every detail, the drawings and the specifications to try to find alternate solutions without affecting those items that I just mentioned, which was the integrity of the design and all of the elements that were included in that design. That's a big challenge. We've been working very hard to do that and to accomplish that, and I'm going to report where we are. So without deleting or postponing construction of any of the major features, including all the water features, all the gardens, the bridges, all the displays, etc. Everything is still intact. We have reached a cost reduction level of $1 million for the Heroes Memorial Park and approximately $140,000 for the Uptown Central Park, a total of about $1.14 million. So that would bring the proposed contract amount to Cadence McShane for the Heroes Memorial Park to $7,950,000. And the proposed contract amount, which will be the next action item for Stoddard Construction for Uptown Central Park, to $4,850,000. These projects really need to get underway in order to meet some of the desired milestones and all the development and everything else that's going around. But our recommendation would be to go forward with those dollar amounts, and we will continue to work on other ideas to reduce costs as we move into the submittal shop drawing phases and we bring all the vendors on board. There's possibly more money. I cannot guarantee that. I think we've reached a pretty good threshold with what we can get out and keep all the features in place. So we have representatives from the architects here as well. I know we have representatives from Cadence McShane. So we're taking up the first action item, which is the proposed amount of $7,950,000 for the Memorial Heroes Memorial Park. If anybody else on our team wants to add any comments, Philip or Stephen or anyone else, please do so. I'll be happy to entertain questions.
Yeah, I'll just say briefly, you know, the proposed cost changes, you know, we're really comfortable with the proposed cost changes and delivering everything that you all have seen to date, and you know, perhaps even better than some of the things that you've seen in terms of developing the drawings and things further. We're very happy with the quality of the materials and that we will not be burdening you all with something that's going to, you know, fade and fall apart and start having a lot of problems in the near future. And, you know, just thankful that the team's kind of worked hard, hustled over the last few weeks to do what we can on that. But, you know, I assure you that the cuts that we are looking at now won't, you know, will not be recognizable. And as Bob mentioned, we're going to continue to look for values as we kind of understand more about the scope and the different trade partners that are participating in the project. Mayor Mitchell has been pretty clear about the culture around making those decisions and, you know, the commitment to quality on the project. So I feel like we're in a pretty good position on that moving forward.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Philip. Does anybody have any questions for Bob or Philip?
Mayor, I just want to thank Philip and his team and everyone. It's really exciting that we're getting to this point. Seeing this park come to fruition is probably something that is gonna, I think everybody's excited about on council. Being able to pay respects to those that have, you know, given everything for our community, for our country, has been amazing. To build something that's going to recognize that and also recognize the service of all those first responders and military men and women who also give up family time, weekends, and give of themselves to no end, being able to recognize them as well. I think this is going to be a great testimony to it. Philip and his team and along with all the council members have been working hard on this design. I think it's going to be something that's going to be in our city forever, and it's going to be recognized as something that we really took our time and did a great job with bringing something that was going to memorialize and honor all those that we wanted to pay tribute to. With that being said, I'd like to make a motion to approve action item number 3.
Second. Okay, it's been motioned by Councilmember Rizzo, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Coach, that we approve agenda item number 3, which is the contract for Heroes Memorial Park with Cadence McShane. Is there any further discussion?
Mayor, I had a recommendation in your motion, if you would please include the dollar amount.
In an amount not to exceed $7,950,000. Is that an agreeable amendment? So let me say it this way. I'd like to make a motion to amend and include an amount not to exceed of $7,950,000.
Second.
All right, it's been moved by the mayor, seconded by the Mayor Pro Tem. Is there any discussion on that motion? Okay, so we're going to take 2 votes. The first vote is on the amendment. The second vote will be on the entire item. So on the motion to amend, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. All right, motion carries unanimously. And so now the main question is before us, is there any discussion on that motion?
I just want to say that I second everything Councilmember Rizzo said. Couldn't have said it better myself, Rizzo. Very proud of this project. I'm very much looking forward to this vote.
All right, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed. Motion carries unanimously. All right, next up, agenda item number 4, consideration and approval of contract amount for Uptown Central Park with Stoddard Construction Management. Go ahead, Bob.
Yes, sir. So everything that I just said applies to both projects because we were working parallel with both teams. Stephen Spears is here. Stephen, do you want to make any additional comments?
Sure. Thank you, Bob. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, great. I just want to take a moment and say thanks to Bob and his team and everyone who's been involved working together on both of the projects. We recognize that they're technically 2 separate projects, but it's one community, and we needed to make sure this balanced out as much as possible. And it was just a great process to work through with Bob and his team to find savings with the Central Park project, and also to be able to help Philip and his team and the entire process for the Heroes Memorial. I'm just very excited to have both the projects being considered tonight. Thank you.
So the dollar amount for Stoddard Construction Company would be $4,850,000.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to approve the contract amount to Stoddard on Central Park for an amount not to exceed $4,850,000.
Second.
Okay, it's been motioned by the mayor, seconded by Councilmember Rizzo, that we approve that amount. Is there any discussion on the motion? Go ahead.
Just wanted to thank Philip and for all his help and for helping guide us down the path we've gone to bring park forward to the city of Kyle. I'm really looking forward to this park. I'm looking for the programming that's going to be associated with it, and I'm just thinking that we were, as a city, very lucky to have had Stephen and Philip helping us through while we're designing these 2 parks, and I just want to thank them from the city, from myself, for everybody. Thank you for all your help with this.
Thank you, Councilmember Rizzo. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed. All right, motion carries unanimously. Next up, agenda item number 5, conduct a public hearing on the intent and plan of the tax increment reinvestment zone number 2 to authorize the city of Kyle to issue certificates of obligation bonds in an amount not to exceed $4 million for the design and construction of 3 roads and other associated infrastructure improvements in Uptown Plum Creek development, and to agree to reimburse the city of Kyle each fiscal year for all principal and interest payments due and set on the said bonds from the property tax revenue increments until such bonds have been fully paid off. Mr. Sellers, go ahead.
All right, thank you. TIRZ board, I'm going to share my screen and just show you the roads that we are talking about per the Uptown plan that is currently being worked by Momark. You can see here on the screen, there are 3 roads that are in front of you tonight. The east-west commercial boulevard that basically goes from 1626 back to the first building in phase 1, which you've seen before. This is the, we'll call it the restaurant mixed use building here on the square. And then the extension of Cromwell to the north, and then the, we'll call it the Heroes Memorial Park Drive down here. So these 3 roads, what we have looked at is these are very important to the growth and the timing of the development within the Uptown area. The plan in the past was to basically fund these roads, along which the cultural trail rides as well. As the Uptown area is developed, it could be 3, 5, 6 years, you know, that basically the developer would pay for these roads as the development happened kind of organically. What we have looked at with the TIRZ board, with the developer, is by pre-funding these roadways, we can accelerate development by at least 5 years or more, and really accelerate the trajectory of the commercial development here in the Uptown area. So we looked at the capacity that the TIRZ could be able to handle to accept these roads. The city would accept these roads, and then the TIRZ would fund the development of these roads up front. We've had an engineer estimate look at the cost of the roads and the cultural trail. It's around $4 million or a little under. So what we are asking the TIRZ board to look at tonight is the recommendation to the city council to issue certificates of obligation, which is debt that the council can pass for certain infrastructure, utilizing the available resources from within the TIRZ to pay for that debt service. And again, this gets these projects as well as the cultural trail constructed much more in advance or earlier on than otherwise anticipated. So that's before you tonight. We would ask for your recommendation to the city council to go ahead and authorize the debt and get these roads, first of all, accepted by the city, and then have certificates of obligation issued for the construction. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Scott. One thing is, so this is a public hearing, so we'll need to open and close the public hearing. But before we do, there's some discussion about possibly increasing it to the $5 million number. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure, because we see costs that are increasing so rapidly in the Austin region. The price for materials continues to escalate, and we've seen some of our recent bids come in much higher than estimated. We looked at the TIRZ capacity, and even though the engineer estimate for these projects is a little under the $4 million mark, we want to make sure that we have the available funds to get these 3 projects done. Assuming the contractor's estimate or the bids come in above that $4 million mark, we want to make sure that we have the ability to pay for it out of the bond proceeds. So what we would ask this board to do is to recommend actually $5 million from the TIRZ bonds or TIRZ funds for a bond. And then in your motion tonight, you would basically approve or make a motion for the 5 million instead of the 4 million, and that would go to the city council.
All right, thank you, Scott. Is there anyone who has any questions on what Scott said before we open the public hearing?
Hold on, Mayor. Mayor, Scott, could you mute your mic? We're getting feedback when the mayor speaks. Thank you. Go ahead, Mayor. Sorry.
Oh, no, he's muted.
Now you're
No,
muted,
I know.
Mayor.
I was talking to him because we're in the same office. Sorry about that. So,
Okay.
are there any questions from this board about what Scott mentioned before we open the public hearing?
This is Councilman Tobias. So what we're doing here is we're stating that it's 4 million, but we're going to increase it an additional million to not exceed 5.
Right. The idea was because of the analysis we have up until this point shows that the infrastructure needed is around 4 million. But we know that there's a lot of different elements at play, and based on what finance director had said, what Pervez had said was that the total amount we really had available was 5. So for this particular action, we thought maybe we should go ahead and increase it to 5. Not that we're obligated in any way to expend that extra million, but to create that capacity with all the craziness that's going on, to make sure that we're not having to cash fund something that we really want when the TIRZ has the capacity to pay. And an important point to note here is that really what we're talking about is using the TIRZ revenues to pay back. So the city of Kyle would be issuing the debt. The TIRZ will have enough revenues, according to the analysis that we've been provided, to pay back all of that debt, so that it's not being paid back by the general fund, although the general fund makes the payments, but we would enter into an agreement with the TIRZ board so that the TIRZ would actually pass that debt. They would pay every year the same amount that the general fund had to pay. So it's a pass through, essentially. So we don't know what that exact number is, because this is a project really that we're discussing funding for, but we haven't actually engineered and prepared for bid. So the thought was, let's go ahead and give the amount that we know we can afford right now, so that we don't get into a situation where we're trying to expend cash dollars that we don't have to.
Okay. So that way it could be just addressed like what you just stated, to where it will not exceed this much on that end, because the quicker we can get it on there, because it is true, a lot of prices are going up, especially with the development around the Austin area and other areas, materials, wood, concrete, contracting workers themselves, that is starting to be in a bigger high demand. And so that's something that we would need to stress to our residents. The reason why we're doing this is to give us that cap, that extra buffers, what you're saying. And it could be that we may not even need that much. It may be a little bit lower,
Right.
But we're just giving ourselves kind of like right now with the NFL draft, a salary cap, in the sense to where we can be able to get these projects going soon now, so we can get the revenue in, so we can start paying back into the general fund. Okay, just so that
And
we
it's
have
fully
understanding.
reimbursable by the TIRZ.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor.
Any other questions or comments? All right, if there are no objections, then I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. The public hearing is now open. Jennifer, is there anyone who has called in or who is registered to speak?
There is one phone number on this meeting that I don't recognize. It's the 480 area code, but there was no one registered ahead of time.
Okay, well, I'll just hold it open. Is there anyone who wishes to speak that's on this meeting call? All right, hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. It is now closed. All right, next up, agenda item number 6, consider approving a resolution, TIRZ number 2 board authorizing the city council to provide the following. There's a list of 5 different items here. The first item is for not to exceed for 4 million, but we're going to go ahead and change that to 5 unless there are objections, and then the remainder of the items that are necessary to fund the project. Is there anyone who's going to present on this? Is that Bob or is that you, Scott?
Pervez. You want to walk through this one really quick?
There you go, Pervez.
Sure. For the record, I'm Pervez Mohit, City's Director of Finance. Board members, the resolution before you specifically takes 5 action items. Under each, I'll walk you through for each one of these. The board is authorizing the City Council, Kyle City Council, to issue certificates of obligation on its behalf in an amount not to exceed $5 million for the design and construction of the 3 roads and other associated infrastructure improvements in Uptown Plum Creek development. Second, and this is very important, the board agrees to reimburse the City of Kyle each fiscal year for the full amount of principal and interest that is due on the bonds each fiscal year from the property tax increments that the TIRZ will collect until such time as these bonds have been fully paid off. Number 3, the board is authorizing the City Council to select and enter into contracts with professional services firms and contractors for the design and construction of the 3 roads and other associated infrastructure improvements in the Uptown Plum Creek development. Number 4, the board hereby authorizes Kyle City Council to administer, manage, and disburse funds from the bond proceeds to the selected professional services firms and contractors for expenditures incurred for the construction or design and construction of the 3 roads. And finally, number 5, the board authorizes the City Council to issue a publication of notice of intent on its behalf that the City of Kyle will issue certificates of obligations in an amount not to exceed $5 million. I'll be glad to answer any questions any of you all have.
Thank you, Pervez. Does anyone have any questions on that?
I have
Yes.
a quick question, Press. Referencing number 2, when it says to agree to reimburse until the bonds have been fully paid, is there anywhere in there, once we have everything set up and the construction is going, to where there's a actual time table, like within 3 years, within 4 years, that they would be fully paid off? I know it's kind of hard with the market. You know, we have to get the businesses in there. But if there's a certain type of time limit, that way it could be kept on track if it's something that could be suggested.
These bonds, the CO bonds that we plan to issue on behalf of the TIRZ, will be for a 20-year period. So they will be outstanding for 20 years. The reason for that is so it's affordable for the board, for the TIRZ board, to be able to repay the general fund, city's general fund. So these are not short-term bonds. They're going to be outstanding for 20 years.
Okay.
And the annual debt service will be about $265,000 a year.
Okay, that the TIRZ would actually pay back into the city would be that yearly until those. Okay.
Yes, sir. The city's general fund will be reimbursed 100% for the principal and interest due on these bonds.
Okay.
So the taxpayers of Kyle will not be paying, the general fund taxpayers will not be paying a single dollar on this debt.
Okay. It would all be through the TIRZ.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I had a question. That way our residents can hear that and they understand when they see the dollar,
what we're doing,
when they see the money, that's going to be questions that will come up. So we can kind of stress that and go from there. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Councilman Rizzo, I think you had a comment. You muted.
Sorry, pretty much on the same lines as Councilmember Tobias was, so he got the question. He got the answer for the question I had.
Okay, is there any other comments or questions? I'd like to make a motion to approve agenda item number 6.
Second.
All right, it's been moved by the mayor, seconded by Councilmember Bradshaw. Is there any discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously. Next up, agenda item number 7, discussion on meeting date for May 2021. I do not know about this one, so.
Right, TIRZ board, Scott Sellers for the record. I think right now, so there is one item that the TIRZ board will need to take up here in the future, which is the reimbursement agreement for the action item that was just in front of you. Once we have that ready, we will schedule another meeting. I don't think right now at this time it's that imperative that we set the actual date for our next meeting. So if it's okay with you, we'll just hold off on setting the date. We'll work on that reimbursement agreement, make sure we're set with AGCM on the next steps, and then we'll come back with you on a future date for the next meeting.
All right, thanks, Scott. Anybody have any questions or comments on that one? Well, if not, we have no executive session, so I think we got through it. These items will, since it's just the council here, the items on HMP and La Verde or Central Park will be back soon, as much as Tuesday. So in fact, the actual council agenda was waiting to be published until after this. So it'll probably be published first thing tomorrow. I don't know where Jennifer is at, but on that, or where Scott is, but just look for it first thing tomorrow. It will have these items on because the council has to basically ratify this action as well. Any other thoughts, comments? Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. I don't believe we call roll on this one, so we'll follow Commissioner Ingleby's lead. Y'all enjoy your day, enjoy your evening. We'll talk soon. We'll see you on Tuesday for sure.